welcome to A Good Walk Spoiled, Adventures in Golf, hosted by Scott Ponywaz, also known as @PonyGolf. Hello and welcome to another episode of A Good Walk Spoiled, Adventures in Golf with your host, Scott Ponywaz. That would be me. As I've alluded to in some prior episodes, I'm actually heading out on vacation to Australia, so this episode is being a little pre-recorded. So I thought to myself, what can I cover that will be timeless? And after a recent podcast that I just did with on the guest side of things with fellow Golfer Gang Network podcaster Jeff Hartmann on his podcast, Fairways Dreams, I realized there are a lot of questions about how I went from a 15 handicap to nearly scratch. I'm sitting at a 2 and fighting to get over that hump to the big 0 and the donut. But I've made that leap. I've played golf all my life, but really made an honest push. When I was playing high school golf, I was around, maybe like a 6 or an 8 and playing competitive. And then I sort of, went on the getting older and not really playing a ton of golf. And so then I kind of trickled back up to not having a handicap. And then I was sort of around a 15, 16 when I did start to get my handicap back. And then now basically from probably 2015, where I was still minorly playing golf. And then really when I made the concerted effort, I was still around a 15, probably just as COVID was starting. And I was back in New York, and then so that was 2019-ish, and then I've basically since then, over the last 5 or so years, really pushed hard to get down to a 2 handicap. So you can listen to that whole story on Jeff's podcast, again, Fairways Dreams. You can go find it on the Golfer Gang Network over at golfergang.com, along with your other favorite podcast networks. I know Jeff's got it on Apple, Spotify, all the good ones. But again, you can also find it at golfergang.com. Fairways Dreams, and my episode is one of the more recent ones, so check that one out. I also talk about a little golf travel as well. But golfergang.com, you can also find some of the other great podcasts as well as mine. It's sort of the gateway to finding A Good Walk Spoiled. So you can go check out my podcast there. Also, whatever you found it on now, be sure to like, subscribe, star it, rate it, all that good stuff. That all helps me. Comment on it if that's an opportunity. If you're watching on YouTube, today's episode is actually going to be more catered towards YouTube. There's going to be some screen sharing, some demos, some reviews, some product stuff. So if you're not already finding me on YouTube, please head to youtube.com and find A Good Walk Spoiled podcast. It's under Pony Golf over there. That link I'll also drop in the comments. It's in my LinkTree as well, so you can always find it there. And last but not least, I do have some A Good Walk Spoiled merch, and that is all thanks to Millions.co. Millions actually is the one that sort of has helped with getting some of the Pony Golf branding together. Also, Good Walk Spoiled podcast and some of the assistants over there, but they also helped me with that great iconic Pony Golf walking logo you can kind of see there in my little screen up there in the corner. But head to millions.co/Scott-Ponywaz-golf. That just is going to help me continue to produce this, continue to make improvements on the podcast. You might already see that I've upgraded the camera to a little more high def. It's going to also help me upgrade some of my podcasting production. I'd really love to redo the intro and the outro so that it's not me talking. And then also, I'd like to upgrade some of the video quality and some of the production quality with Riverside, which would also have a monthly subscription. So I'm doing this out of the enjoyment. My accidental influencer life is not exactly paying the bills these days. So any little bit helps. Purchasing through some of my affiliate links that I'm dropping in the descriptions and on my LinkTree, that all helps me, especially if it's stuff that you're going to buy anyway. Like, give me a little help and a little kickback. Every little bit helps to keep making these episodes, and also to keep expanding the Pony Golf Media Network. I'd really like to do some more course tours this summer, which, I have the GoPro side of things, but it'd be nice if I could invest in a little drone from DJI so I can give you some over the top course tours as well. So just dropping all that in there so that, the whole Pony Golf accidental influencer thing, it's, giving me a few dollars here and there, but it's really not paying the bill. So every little bit helps. So I appreciate it. And with that, enough of the sales pitch. While I am out in Australia, I will try to do some coverage on that when I get back. But today's episode, I'm going to talk about some of the technology and some of the things that have helped me go from a 15 to a nearly scratch 2 handicap. So I will get into those in just a second. And then for our chips, bites, and flights segment today, I have a great destination, St. George, Utah, which is also sort of some of the roots of how pony golf, and also some ties to the photos in the A Good Walk Spoiled sort of branding. So we'll get into that in a little bit here, but we'll dive into the technology segment first. So thanks for joining me today. Again, like everything, subscribe, keep listening, share it with your friends. I really appreciate those that are already supporting Pony Golf and the A Good Walk Spoiled podcast. So thanks for tuning in, and let's just jump right in. And let's tee up this next segment on technology. Some of it's technology and some of it is sort of a blend of technology and just, hard work and effort and practice. So I'm not going to say that the technology is everything that's helped me get from a 15 handicap down to a current 2 handicap. I've floated down into the ones last season, and next season, or I guess we're already in the season, it's just, I had 15 inches of snow this past week that closed the golf course and delayed the opening of my home course, which is the Big Sky Resort course. If you ever find your way out, by the way, to Big Sky or to Bozeman, Montana, let me know. I'm always open for a round, so don't be shy. But I'm going to talk about some of the different technologies and things that helped me go from a 15 to a 2 handicap. Some of it is swing related. Some of it is mental and physical related. I will, preface this all by saying, there's a lot of information out there, and what worked for me is not going to necessarily work for you. And that's why I am going to highlight a number of things that I think you'll see aren't necessarily swing related 100%, but much more strategy, mental, confidence, all the different sort of side things that go into golf that I think can apply to a much wider audience. Like, you can go on YouTube and you're going to find a million different ways to hit a chip shot, and a million different ways to get up and down around the green, and a million different ways to improve your driver. But I think what honestly helped me make the biggest headway in my golf game was learning what my game was, what my skill set was, what my strengths, my weaknesses are, and how to play in their favor. And I think that's one of the quickest ways to improve upon your game. If you're hitting a slice or a fade, yes, there's certain things that you might want to work on with your swing to help correct those. But at the same time, if you have a fade that is working for you to some extent, there are certain things in your game that can probably just be played as within your abilities. So if you hit a consistent fade, instead of trying to correct it into a draw or a more straight shot, where then all of a sudden you're unsure of if it's going to go right or left with each tee shot or drive or, 4-iron that you're hitting into the green, if you can create consistency within your game, where where your misses are more likely, you can actually factor those in. And that's probably a whole nother episode where I should probably bring somebody in that's a more golf strategy person. But, if you know that you're hitting that fade and you're playing to the left side of the fairway where, 3 out of 4 times it's going to stay within 10 to 15 yards of dispersion. And you can see that, you're going to keep it in the fairway, aiming on the left side of the fairway more often than not, instead of trying to play a game that's not yours, and trying to, aim for the middle and hit a draw around a dog leg right. A dog leg left, but instead you're playing that left side of the fairway, hitting the draw, which ends up more on the right side of the fairway, giving you a shot from the right side of the fairway into a green that, instead you're trying to tee it up and hit a draw that you don't have in the bag. And then you end up, just either totally slicing it off into the woods or duffing it off the tee or duck hooking it left into the woods and putting yourself in trouble. That's where you can go from a struggling golfer to a good golfer, and then go from a good golfer to a great golfer. Even just aiming for the middle of the green or aiming for the left side of the green, if you know that you have a more consistent fade, playing to those strengths. And so I'm going to get into some of the technology, using a couple of those little tidbits, hopefully, as I kind of talk through some of these technologies and how they helped. They will also help you think about your golf game in a different way. So jumping in first, one of the big things was honestly finding a coach. It can be overwhelming when you start looking for a coach, trying to find them. It was for me, I'm not going to lie. I had reached out to countless numbers of people that were on sort of like the Golf Digest top 50 list that were in the greater New York area. I had tried some lessons at some different indoor golf places that I actually love those golf coaches. It just didn't necessarily work for me. And I now still love a lot of what they're doing in the golf world. And I know other people that love those particular golf coaches. For me, I did go through a little bit of trial and error. And a lot of it is finding a personality, finding somebody that works well with you, that speaks to how you're trying to get to. And it was honestly mind-boggling that I reached out to several people that ran indoor golf schools or were teaching pros at various areas around, and they didn't even respond to me. I was pretty straightforward and very particular on what I was looking for. I wanted somebody that could help me with golf strategy. They could help me with my swing work. They could help me with my short game. Ideally, they were going to be in the New York, New Jersey area. And my particular coach, Bill Schmiedis, who I've mentioned on prior episodes, he actually started out as somebody that I found through his personal website, through the Golf Digest, like best up and coming instructors. And no doubt about it, he definitely has been up and coming and has hit it. He's now he had worked with PGA players as a assistant coach for one of the bigger names. He's also worked at some of the bigger golf schools in the country down in Savannah, Georgia, at the Westin down there. He also has now since broken off fully into his own teaching school, and that's Mastery Golf Performance down in Bluffton / Hilton Head Island area. But Bill definitely is a grinder, and I think he appreciated my sort of grind of wanting to get somewhere. But he and I first met at his club that he was teaching at, and took a first lesson with him, and then it actually turned out that he was in the process of relocating down to Hilton Head and to go work in Savannah and open up this golf school down there. And so he and I worked through a transition period, but that sort of first in-person lesson definitely helped to guide some of the strengths and weaknesses to take me down to the next level. One of the first things he told me was go get fit for a new bag. I can't believe you're still using this old technology, which I had just kind of been afraid of change. And he also introduced me to Skillist. So as he moved down, Skillist became our go-to teaching method. I ended up working, I was living in the city, in New York City at the time, which those of you that have lived there, it's hard to get anywhere. Skillist actually paired with the next piece of technology. So Skillist is number one. Number two, it's going to be golf simulators. And while I was living in the city, I ended up with a membership at 5-Iron Golf. And so I ended up using TrackMan technology for the most part in a lot of my teaching that Bill was giving me, instruction that Bill was giving me. So the beautiful thing about Skillist is Skillist, you're able to basically take swings, do a minute or two of a handful of swings. And I usually would try to use not only my best, but also some of like where I've seen my misses, and I'd upload those swings. And so Bill would review maybe 4 or 5 minutes of swing clips. And I'd have those swings. He'd, basically be able to look at some of the TrackMan data as well, see where things like face to path and some of the different data was showing up within my swing. And he would basically then be able to give me feedback not only on the mechanics of my swing, but he would also then be able to look at that TrackMan data and tell me specific drills to work on, how to set them up within the simulator. And so I was going to 5-Iron Golf probably 3 to 4 days a week at least. A lot of days I would go before I started work. So I'd go, 6:30 in the morning, go get an early, hour or 2 hour swing session in, working through specific drills. And so I was also putting this time in. But the beauty of TrackMan is Bill would give me certain parameters to work through and basically say, like, you want your face to path ratios to be on a 2 to 2.5 to 1 ratio so that we can start to work through. We want to make sure that you're, working on that inside out movement. So pay attention to these numbers and keep them within these ranges so that I could start to work from my fade to my draw. And this was like months over time. Like, we're not talking like, oh, one lesson and then, all right, everything's fixed. But instead, the great thing with Skillist especially is, as well as the TrackMan at 5-Iron Golf, is that I had subscriptions. I could go and use them as much as I had the time to be able to fit in. And then with Skillist too, Bill and I could work, and I could say, okay, here's my drilling. Am I on track? Am I doing it right? And it'd just be a real quick check-in. Bill would be able to take a look at it super quick and be like, yep, you're on track. Or, let's work a little bit more on stretching the hands. Let's, work on things that you can do in your apartment just with a wall and your body and not even have to go to the simulator. And so that was a huge win for me, was being able to use Skillist, being able to use video and just, the trusty iPhone. And then being able to get that TrackMan data. Nowadays, it's a little tougher for me out here in Montana, not going to lie. Don't have all the resources, and my barn is still in the open. It's not closed off and heated, unfortunately, yet out here. So that's coming soon, hopefully. But now I just have an affordable Garmin R10. The reason why I picked that was because it does have a lot more data than a lot of the lower priced value driven golf sims. And I've found the Garmin R10, it can be a little finicky for certain people and for certain clubs, but for a lot of like just standard ironless lengths in my barn, I can find the face to path. I can find, different driver speed, carry, total distances, all being fairly accurate to what I know. It will have a few outliers or misses here and there. Drivers can sometimes be a little tricky on it. Similar high loft wedges can be a little tricky, but like when I'm just really trying to work on the swing, it can be great. It also is a great tool for me to use the Garmin R10 out on an actual range where it tends to perform quite well. It also is great for short game practice areas. I've used it a lot to really dial in what I call video game golf for my short game and getting up and down. You can go from 40 yards and just work on consistent 40-yard swings, or I can work on climbing the ladder. One of the practice chipping greens that I have at the Big Sky Resort course is great for this, where I can basically have different discs set out for a carry distance of 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and basically work on different carry distances and different total distances when I practice between, say, a lower loft wedge of a 50 versus my 60, where I maybe want a little more spinny shot or I want a little bit more of a rollout. So those golf simulators have been super key. And so, yeah, the Garmin R10 now I think is like under $500. And, I think that we'll continue to see some of the higher end golf simulators hopefully come down into an everyday golfer's budget and not just that, $25,000 TrackMan. I'm waiting for that. Or, obviously if TrackMan wants to contribute, I'm also always open to that. I've got a barn if they want to come in and build a facility for me. That would be a great marketing tool for some future videos. Just saying, throwing it out there into the ethers. So the next one that I'm going to talk about is Arccos. Arccos, just fantastic, and it also sort of trickles back to Skillest and some of the data that I'm also able to use with Bill, who's the coach that I've been working with, and I kind of taken an off season or a winter off with him just because it is a little trickier for me to stay consistent. Here in Montana, the indoor golf facilities are a little trickier, and until I get that barn built out back, I also ski a lot, so that's the other thing of keeping consistent. It's kind of the ski season, golf season, but I still do golf throughout the winter and some indoor golfing. But so speaking of which, Arccos. So I'm going to give you a quick little walkthrough of Arccos, and so we'll kind of like flip over here to the Arccos segment. So Arccos, I'm going to quickly give you a little walkthrough of it because I just think that it is honestly such a cool tool. And so here we have, and it's of course. Okay, so here we have Arccos. This is honestly one of the coolest technologies out there right now, and I know that there are some people that love it and some that hate it. I personally love it. So I'm going to give you just like a quick walkthrough on why it's so valuable. You can actually go back to prior rounds. You can see what shots you hit, where you might have made mistakes. You can review your rounds. The data doesn't lie. And then you can actually look at some of the different summaries, round highlights for a particular round. You can see birdies, bogeys, what was helping, what was hurting, how you stacked up. So I use a 0 handicap because I'm at a 2, and that's where I'm striving to get us to scratch. But as you can see, all this different data with putting, where you can see I'm terrible at, and that's really where I should probably be spending all my time, is putting. But it's just really cool data, and it's all based on these sensors that are on your clubs, your GPS through your phone. And so, it's just really cool stuff as far as, what's available. And then you can actually look at your overall player stats. So if you look up here, I've got, last 50 rounds. You can also use your last 20 or 10, especially if you've been making leaps and bounds. I tend to go more long term. For my everyday look at my profile. But again, that putting thing just looming over me, that big red area, as well as what to work on, recommendations, scoring analysis. I know this. I'm not a very good scorer. It even gives you your smart distances. It will also give you your smart ranges, so you kind of have a sense of where your typical shots tend to fall into. And then, of course, it has your longest, which, playing out in Montana, some of these long drives of 350 yards or long elevation changes and things like that. The other thing that's really cool for tournament play is it allows me to actually preview courses, and also based on my shots, will give me recommendations based on the current weather conditions. So it'll actually let you flip between as well, like, okay, do I want to hit my 4-iron? Do I hit my 3-iron? Do I hit my driver? And hole by hole on a course that you've never played, it can give you shot strategy, which is also super, super helpful, just based on your normal misses, your normal distances, all that kind of stuff. And then it'll give you statistical analysis too, based on, like, okay, your scoring average on this hole is a 4.1 versus 4.5 if you use your 3-iron versus your driver. So some really, really valuable data in there. So it's just really cool. Really awesome. Highly recommend Arcos as something to look into if you're looking to up your game. Again, they're not giving me anything. This is just purely out of my own usage. I wish that I could have a partnership and work with Arcos. Just a big fan of theirs since the early days. And I've even done some other beta testing with some products that they don't have now, which was some sort of tour level analysis and reporting that they did that was more of a higher level premium that they would do throughout the season, and have a professional data analytics person for golf basically analyze everything within your game and give more detailed recommendations. And those reports, as well as the Arcos data, I've been able to use with my coach. So it's sort of all, you're seeing a stacking going on of these different technologies. The practice and the playing, it all factors in, but a lot of this data can be incredibly helpful. So I just wanted to kind of like do that little walkthrough of Arcos for people to see. I just think it's such an awesome technology, awesome product. So hopefully that Arcos segment was helpful for those of you that are maybe listening on another podcast network and just doing the audio side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually post that little clip as a short on the Pony Golf YouTube channel, so you can always go check that out. I'll hopefully be able to drop a link to that in the description here, so you can see my sort of walkthrough on Arcos and see that I'm also not a fraud. You can see my actual USGA handicap and all that kind of stuff on there, as well as some recent scores. I think it's set at is 2.5 or 2.6 right now. It sort of floats between 2.5 down to, it was getting down to like 1.9 and right around 2.0 flat. But anywho, so Arcos, the golf simulators, if you've got indoor golf simulators like a 5-iron golf or Golf Zone or any of those that you can rent sim time from, that paired with Skillist can be top notch. I'm not downplaying any of your local golf courses or lessons that are available to you through your club pros or anything like that in person. I just have found that for me personally, that ability to use all this data, have all that feedback with Arcos, where it's the course management and, understanding where my misses and the actual shots gain data says I am at. For Bill, he can take a look at that information, TrackMan, all the swing data that you can use, and the numbers don't lie. And then being able to occasionally, I've been lucky enough that I occasionally do actually. I have been down to Hilton Head where Bill and I will go out and do playing lessons on the course, and work with me on knockdown pitching wedge shots from 130 yards out into the wind, and some of these other things that are tough to just use a simulator for. So some of those real world situations that you can step in. But I also find that with Skillist, where the monthly subscription to basically send all these videos back and forth and do it all in bite-sized pieces, and spend a lot of time being able to practice what those little tidbits are, instead of paying a full hour for an instructor like Bill at the same price as a monthly subscription to Skillist is. He's not just standing there watching me hit practice drills the whole time. I could actually just take those pieces of feedback, go work on them, come back, do another basically 4 or 5 minute bite-sized piece of lesson, and really build that progressively a bit quicker at a more cost-efficient, value-efficient way. So with that, so that's kind of how the Skillist, the golf simulators, and the Arcos all kind of stack up together. The next part that really, really helped me, which I alluded to, that old technology. I think when I went to Bill, I was playing Cobra 2s, maybe even still a Great Big Bertha, some driver. I used to claim that those big new heads and technology, they used to always slice. And I'll be 100% honest, when I went to my first club fitting, I used Club Champion personally, and I could not, for the life of me, get away from the slice. So they basically told me, they were like, you know what? Come back another day. The irons, we've worked through all the irons at this point, and then we got to the driver, and he's like, you need to learn how to hit the new drivers, so go over to a 5-iron, just use some of their demo clubs, learn how some of that works, and then we'll get you fit into something that's best for you. And so it was kind of funny because like I said, using Club Champion, but, and again, no affiliation at all whatsoever with Club Champion. They're kind of what was available to me in New York City. And I guess the one thing that I will say, and this was the best advice that other people had given me when I went to go, shell out, do it right, get fit for clubs, is go to a place where they don't have particular brand affiliation. They have actual certified club fitters that know the game of golf. Club Champion, I forget the name of the 5-iron golf one that they've actually started within their own facilities. A lot of those are teaching pros. They're actual golf instructors that know the game of golf, know swings, know data, know where to put you into clubs. And the other thing too is that they don't typically have brand affiliations. So not going to downplay like going to a Callaway club fitting or going to a Titleist specific club fitting. I love Callaway. I love Titleist. I love all of those different brands. But like, as an example, if I was going to re-up my Vokies, or if I was going to, go get a new Scotty Cameron, I might go directly to the source, knowing that like those tend to be where I sit well in. However, if I was going to upgrade my irons now, I currently use Cobra Forge Tech. I've also gone from about a 10 or a 9-ish handicap when I did, or maybe it was a 12, when I did actually get that fitting done. But I'm a little bit different golfer now than I was then, and the technology of those clubs versus what's maybe going to fit me now is a little different. And so I might go from a Forge Tech to maybe more of a blade. And so I might also fit into a totally different brand when I make that big of a change. Drivers, again, a lot of technologies are consistently changing. My swing has changed. So while I currently use a Callaway outdated Maverick, which is like what, 2-3 generations now they've gone through. Now they're at the AI paradigm. It was the Rogue and it was the Epic, and mine is the Maverick. So I'm definitely a few generations behind and overdue for a driver. But like at this point, the new driver technology, the new Callaway, based on my current swing and everything, might not be the best club for me anymore. So that's why using somebody like a Club Champion that can be more brand agnostic. And then I'm going to recommend when you're in there to go in totally open-minded, especially if you've never done this before and never had a club fitting. Go in totally open-minded. Let the data, let the feel, let some of the other things like the look when you're looking down. Again, that kind of factors into the feel. You might be totally dead set on Titleist because you're a diehard Titleist fan, but then when you're looking down, you're like, I don't know, something about the eye line and the feel and the sight. Like when I come through, even when I pure it just doesn't feel as good as the Cobra or the Callaway irons. Like, don't let yourself get sidetracked and don't get hung up on brands because it's what all those ads are telling you and what your favorite tour players are playing or what your buddies are playing because they got the new PXGs and like you should totally get the PXGs or all that kind of stuff that factors into getting your clubs. Throw it out the window and just go in completely open-minded with a brand agnostic club fitter that has your best interest. And like, of course, there's going to be some upsell things that each of these might have with, certain shafts or, Club Champion, the curing. I'm not going to talk down on it because I actually got puring on my clubs. But if you look at the data behind puring for Club Champion, for most golfers, it's honestly not going to make a difference. And that's not me saying it; it's the data. It's it basically is a factor where the minuscule amount is something that like a Tiger Woods or somebody that's closer to scratch is going to see minor changes because they have a very consistent swing. So before you go, just know some of the things that might be upsold along the way. But again, club fitting, the data, all that stuff can kind of factor in. And if you're already using data like Arcos and you're already using data like TrackMan or Foresight or the Garmin stuff where you understand a little bit more about your swing going in, and it's not just the data that you're getting from the club fitter day of, all that can be super helpful in getting you into the right set of clubs, which can also be big game improvement tools, especially if you have clubs that are the right feel, are the right fit, have the right swing or shaft flex and right grips and right loft and lie and all those different things that a club fitter can tune to your swing and your playing style and get you a golf club that's the tool that's going to, again, play to your game rather than you trying to fit your game to a particular club that doesn't fit you. High handicapper with a low swing speed and a senior probably don't need extra stiff shafts and a 8-degree or what is Bryson at, like a 4.5-degree lofted driver. So all that stuff factoring in. So the last little parts of what's really helped me, a couple books that I'm going to highly recommend, and sort of the old school, new school technology of the mental game. The game is often played between the ears, and the more you can start to realize that, the more you'll understand golf, and the more
Sorry, I'm having trouble understanding right now.
And that's going to be the area where most golfers can make the most improvement. I kind of alluded to it with some of the shot shaping things and course management skills, being able to play to your fade instead of trying to hit a draw around a dogleg left. If you hit that fade to the right and have that shot land at a distance, it gives you a clear cut into the green. You might be a little further out, but being a little further out is better than being left into the trees, having to punch out, instead of hitting one with a 170-yard shot into the green while your buddy that hits a draw is hitting maybe a 140-yard shot into the green because he hits a more draw that caters to that dog leg left. You're still going to be better off than trying to hit a draw into the trees on the left, having to punch out, and then all of a sudden you're 1, 2, 3, where you could be just hitting your second shot into the green. So those little things, course management. That being said, mental attitude is a big thing. So I'm going to talk about two of my favorite books that really made a big impact in my game, really helped me make big strides aside from the golf skill side of things. And those are these two books, Vision 54's Every Shot Must Have a Purpose, and then Golf is Not a Game of Perfect by Bob Rotella. These two books, I think Golf is Not a Game of Perfect is definitely one that is pretty widely known. I think Every Shot Must Have a Purpose is a little lesser known, and I think it's honestly one of the best golf books for improving your game out there. And they even have built a whole Vision 54 system. And Vision 54 is essentially on part of the components that go into their whole coaching strategy for mental and strategic and focused golf. And that is based around the fact that the skilled golfer with the right mindset, there's no doubt that somebody could shoot a 54, which would be a birdie on every hole. It's the mental side of you that's holding you back. There have been plenty of 59s, even a couple 58s. I don't know if unofficially there's even been scores lower than that. But when Pia Nelson and Lynn Marriott, both now currently in Scottsdale at Talking Stick Resort. They run their coaching school out of Talking Stick. So if you're ever down there, I've actually really wanted to get down there and go do it. I haven't had a chance to sort of cut out the time and the budget for it. But their Every Shot Must Have a Purpose and Vision 54 mindset was like the best golfers in golf have birdied just about every single hole on their home course, or they've birdied every single hole on particular golf courses that they've played over the years. They've done it in different rounds. They haven't done it in the same round as a full 18 played start to finish, but they've got it in them somewhere. And the idea is that, like, taking that to a normal golfer, maybe that's every golfer has the ability to shoot a 9 over, bogey every hole, or maybe they have the bogey golfer. If you're a over 100 golfer, like, you have the ability to play bogey golf. You have the ability to play every other hole bogey golf. You have the ability to shoot par. The thing that's keeping you away from it is between the ears, and I'm actually still struggling with that on the whole breaking par thing and breaking 70 thing. So their whole idea is that you have it in you, and it's around building a routine, maintaining focus, and committing to shots. And so things, when practiced on the mental side of things, can really help with consistency in your golf swing and performance, even when you get into pressure situations. So going back to that, every person can hit that, sort of perfect 54 birdie on every hole that has a skill set. Where they might miss it is, oh man, I'm getting down to the 16th hole, I'm about to shoot my best round of my life. And then you start getting away from the things that have kept you consistent and really gotten you into that sort of blackout golf that some of the pro golfers you hear about have talked about, where like they're in such a zone that they're so focused. And Tiger Woods has talked about this, where like you're almost in this tunnel vision, and it's you're stepping up to your shot, and the think box is something that's really been consistently clutch for me when I do actually practice it and am mentally in the space to do it. I stand behind the shot, I think, visualize my shot, I commit to it, and then I leave all that behind when I go to actually approach my shot. No swing thoughts. I trust that I have the consistency in my swing to hit that shot because I've visualized it. I've, committed to the shot that I want to play. And then I go out, I step up, and boom, if I just let the muscle memory do it, it works. I'm actually even forgetting, and I'm pretty sure it's actually a Harvey Penick teaching sort of tool that he used, but, and I'm also totally forgetting the actual instructor's name, but a woman who goes by at Take Dead Aim on Instagram. Take Dead Aim, again, sort of going back to Harvey Penick. She's an instructor at Austin Country Club, also home of the great Harvey Penick. But she also has this drill that she does with a lot of golfers, and I've seen her demonstrate it with a lot of youth golfers, where you take that whole stress of like, okay, now I'm stepping up to the shot and like, have my swing thought of, okay, stretch my arms out, blah, blah, blah. But like when you actually let your body take over in its natural ability to hit a golf shot, just like a baseball player where you're basically reacting to the ball, she actually has a drill where she'll use a ball, roll it out, and basically have these golfers swinging as the ball's coming through their stance. And so it's a great opportunity to just let your body take over and try that out. Go look it up. I know she's got it on some older posts, again, at Take Dead Aim on Instagram, the head teaching pro, I believe, at Austin Country Club. And, it sort of factors into this that trust what you've practiced. Golf is a game of consistency and just basically muscle memory. So once you've built that and practice on the range, and you practice chip shots around the green consistently, once you have the swing in you, it all comes down to that mental game and being able to have that routine, have that focus, and commit to shots. So again, Vision 54, every shot must have a purpose. And then the other one that most of you know is Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. And Bob Rotella, his whole game also focuses around the mental side of things, and it's a little less about the routine and committing to shots like the visualization and things that Vision 54 focuses on, but instead, it does touch on that, but it also does talk about a lot of things that go into golf performance, including just mental mindset and how you can control your emotions on the golf course and how you can focus on a single shot instead of thinking of the game as a whole, breaking down your game into different blocks. If things aren't going well, how do you sort of flip the switch and get your mental side of the game out of, God, I just can't hit my driver today, to instead like, okay, I'm going to hit my 3-wood and then like, boom, smash my 3-wood. And like, how do I work myself around that game? And I start to say, man, yeah, that 3-wood, or how do I keep myself from trying to get into my own head about making driver adjustments when things just aren't going right? Or how do I keep myself having fun on the golf course when the game isn't quite where it needs to be, to avoid yourself from completely blowing up around? I'll be 100% honest. I've had this sort of happen on a couple different levels where these mental sides have really helped me, and also I've not done them, and I've known in the process that I've not been focusing on the mental side when I should be, and just knowing what I'm doing is not helping my game or my round at all. And I'm sure you've seen that before. But the other thing too, which I also thought was an interesting thing, and I just saw it on the golf Reddit, the backslash golf one, and it was a guy. I think he said he was about 70 years old, and he basically was saying, I've played golf my whole life. I've consistently been sort of like a 12, 15-ish handicapper, by no means great, but what I noticed between after playing with a guy recently that was a scratch golfer, I noticed the difference in the way that he carries himself versus the way my golf buddies and we all carry ourselves. And one of those things was he knew his strengths and his weaknesses. He knew where to play his game. He also knew that when he hit a bad shot, instead of dwelling on what just happened, he started looking forward to that next shot and totally leaving that in his past, moving on to the next shot and how he was going to make that next shot and save himself. So, again, the mental side, minimizing mistakes, all that kind of stuff, very key to, improving the game. So with that, I guess I'll just give a quick, what's in the bag. Since I've kind of talked about it, I'll just give you that kind of quick rundown. A quick snapshot is I'm still playing a old school Callaway Maverick driver. I've got a 10 degree. I think I've got an extra stiff shaft, whatever, but it's honestly more or less stock. Even after I did go back to get that club fitting the second time with the driver, he ended up being like, all these different shafts, whatever. Honestly, just go buy it off the rack. You're going to pay less than Club Champion. I'm sure his bosses weren't happy with that, but stock Callaway Maverick driver, stock 3-wood as well. I just ended up getting it off of their resale site, actually. I bought one of their barely used demos, and honestly, that's one of the best kept secrets. Maybe it's not now that I'm saying it, but the Callaway refurbished and demo site, it was probably a lower ring, and I was like, I don't know, but it was pretty much untouched. So check their site out as well if you're especially more in the stock club category. As far as irons, I mentioned before, I'm using Cobra Forge Techs. I've got some custom shafts on there, which I can't even remember for the life of me right now. And then I've also got Vokey wedges. I'm still on an SM8, so those are actually definitely due. My 60 degree is very worn right now. The grips are also pretty worn. And then, so I've got a 50, 56, and a 60. I use an M grind. I also have a 60K grind, which I don't use really ever at all. I just don't play on that kind of turf enough. And then my Phantom X Scotty Cameron, and I occasionally still pull in the old school Odyssey Rossi 2. I am actually about to put new grip on that Scotty Cameron because it's getting a little worn, and I'm going to actually put on this new Golf Pride reverse taper round grip. So I'll share that on the social once that gets installed. I'm waiting to get that one back, so it should be any day now, and I'm really excited to try it out because I kind of did some demo practice without it fully installed, and it just feels so much better. So I'm hoping, technology can't solve all the problems, but I'm hoping that it might give me a leg up compared to where I've been on the putting game. And then as far as the bag itself, Vessel, I'm actually super stoked to be working more closely with Vessel golf bags. I have one of their lighter bags as well as one of their newer sort of I think they call it their carry tour bag. Yeah, so that I'm excited. I've been working with some new stuff with a Vessel and some partnership stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that new relationship. I also am pending some new stuff with Holderness and Bourne, so I'm excited about that one. So keep an eye out. I was hoping it would be here before I left for Australia, but it's not quite here as I'm recording these episodes ahead of the trip. So maybe one of the other episodes. And then the other thing is Galway Bay rain gear. I love it. It's just got a nice flexy sort of like stretch fabric. But yeah, speaking of what's in the bag for these wet spring conditions or even the snow that's outside my window right now in Montana, yeah, that Galway Bay rain gear, it definitely has to live in my bag here, just because mountain weather, for those that are out in the Rocky Mountain West, the rain can roll in anytime, even when it's not in the forecast. So I'll do a quick review of that here. So here we go. Right before our Chips, Bites, and Flights segment on the other side of that. So stay tuned and don't go away. Hey, and today, thanks to Galway Bay, I am reviewing their new Renville rain jacket, which is super high quality, super high performance. They've got this great low profile neck, seam sealed for waterproof and extra windproof. The other thing too is it's got this great performance stretch fabric. They've got even all these little nice features like the waist cinch, also this great wrist enclosure, keep it tight around your golf hands. The other thing too is great zippers, waterproof pockets, including a nice little scorecard pocket here that's waterproof as well. Nice little added touch. The other thing too is it's a nice light, soft, stretchy fabric, so easy to wear. I've been able to test it around Montana this spring. While the golf courses might not be open, I've had it out in a little bit of snow, sleet, rain, and been able to wear test it, and I can definitely attest the waterproofness of it. Also nice, sleek style. So, with the golf swing, most importantly, it's not going to inhibit that swing. So, have had a great chance to test it out. Highly recommend it if you want to get your own rain gear, either this jacket or others from Galway Bay. Be sure to use my link in my bio, or you can just use Pony Golf 15. That's PonyGolf 15, and save 15% on your purchases over at GalwayBayGolf.com. And hopefully you enjoyed that little review there, as well as the first segment covering all the technology that has helped me get from a 15-ish to a 2-ish handicap. Obviously the practice, but some of the technology, should say too, like even with Skillest, you can do chipping and putting. I use Perfect Practice putting mats at home, link in the bio in my LinkTree, well as all those other things that I mentioned are in the description, some of those books, as well as links to Galway Bay. My LinkTree also has a bunch of other stuff in there too that has helped me along the way. That being said, welcome back to another episode of Chips, Bites, and Flights. Chips for the golf part, bites for the food part, and flights for the travel accommodations. And let me tell you, got a good lineup, and one that I keep holding near and dear, and it's just a beautiful, I love, epic, dramatic scenery. And so St. George, Utah is where I wanted to take us to this episode. And so, first up, St. George is starting to get on the map a little bit. When I'd actually gone there, it was sort of off the beaten path a little bit. There were a couple of videos on YouTube or whatever, but really the only people that I felt like knew about it were people that were maybe in Las Vegas or people that were maybe in Utah already. Now, fast forward, I'm hearing more and more people that are either moving to St. George, Utah, or taking golf vacations there. Its proximity to Las Vegas, as well as Mesquite, another popular sort of desert golf vacation destination in that area, sort of have it getting tacked on to more golf trips. And the other one that's really putting it on the map is Sand Hollow Golf Resort. They've got these just like picture perfect fairways that take you through iconic red rock mountains, desert. It's like honestly just sort of like this golfer's dream come true for this mix of desert and mountain golf. And they have these desert dunes and the red sand, and the views and geography here are just epic, and there's no question about it. When I played, it also kicked up a big challenge. The winds on the home stretch of the last like 4 or 5 holes when I played it during the Amateur Players Tour tournament, they kicked up to like 40 or 50 mile an hour winds where the flag sticks were just like curling over. You couldn't get golf balls to hold greens. You felt like they were starting to blow, and you'd mark your ball and it'd blow. And they got to the point where like I think they were actually debating a little bit of a delay of some sort, but everybody was traveling. We don't have the PGA Tour convenience of our private jets just getting bumped off a day, or our accommodations being extended with ease, and not having to get to work on a Monday morning. So I played there the Amateur Players Tour. It was their Red Rocks Classic, truly epic golf course, and it's also one that helped put me, Pody Golf, on the map. There's a GoPro photo that I took, and it's on my Instagram. It's one of the earlier ones that started to get some traction, and it was taken with a GoPro overlooking, I believe it's the 11th hole. Don't hold me to it. It's a short par 4, looking down over this tee box of me swinging, dramatic Red Rocks canyon in the background and mountainous area, and I'll try to pop it up here, but the epic photo also had a secret behind it, which those of you that are listening will be the only ones that know about it until others might tell about it. But that short par 4, that swing, it's in my backswing, and the screen shot that that GoPro took, that actually was just before I topped it about 150 yards. But the GoPro capture still made me look like a pro and a superstar with that epic shot. So I'll try to flash that up here on the YouTube. Another reason why this episode you should be watching on YouTube, or you can go check it out on my Instagram. I think you'll probably figure out which one that is of me. So next on the list, another one that was a part of the Amateur Players Tour event, that Red Rock Classic, is Copper Rock, a true desert gem. And it was a course that just kind of like winds through this sort of rolling, rugged landscape. It's got some rolling hills, and even in the distance you can see the mountains with snow-capped mountains. It played, I think it was in May. It was an earlier season tournament, maybe even April, so you could see like the snow-capped peaks in the distance. Just nothing short of awe-inspiring, and some challenging greens that are undulating, and some bigger greens that if you were on the wrong tiers or wrong areas, you could have some really long, challenging putts. And the other fun fact for this episode is the picture of me walking on the A Good Walk Spoiled podcast cover. Yes, that one of me walking with the club in my hand on the show cover episode art and all that kind of stuff. That is actually Copper Rock. That course also taught me, it was honestly some of the first desert golf that I had been playing in competitively since probably quite a few years. And so it also taught me the lesson of desert clubs. And desert golf has this thing where a lot of people that play regularly in like places like Phoenix or here in Utah, they have a specific desert club that's sort of like their beater club that they carry as their 14th club. And it's basically a club that can get scraped up, scratched up in the desert because the rock is not as smooth as like beach sand, and it can, go through tumbleweed, and they don't worry about breaking your shaft on accident. So I learned the tough lesson because during my practice round at Copper Rock, I actually broke the shaft on a nearly brand new 7-iron. Yes, that Cobra Forge tech, and I had to send it back to Club Champion to get that pured shaft, custom shaft replaced. Not easy because it was in COVID golfing times at that point. So it took several weeks. Not fun. I had to buy like a stock 7-iron of the same club off of Second Hand Golf or Second Swing Golf. But yeah, I broke that brand new 7-iron. I was swinging through a branch of some tumbleweed, and honestly, it barely even brushed through. Imagine almost like a feather light touch on that tumbleweed, but it was the straw that broke the 7-iron's shaft. Honestly, to this day, it just like was one of those whoa, what just happened moments, because it didn't really have a lot of like restraint or whatever you want to say. That whatever, it didn't catch the branch very much. I'm at a loss for words right now. I've been talking too much on this episode. That's the point here. But I think it might have been damaged through transit somehow, or it just might have gotten a weird kink in the airplane along the way, and I just never noticed it, or it was so non-evident that it was just or it could have just been honestly some weird warranty thing that it should have been covered under warranty. But anyway, all things considered, I love this course, and I want to get back to it because it was still in the first few months that it was open when I played it. And so they were still like, putting in some areas of turf and some of the carry areas, and a lot of landscaping was still coming in and still doing work on a lot of the homes. But it's just a gorgeous course, great layout, and some of the homes there are set along their own private airstrip with hangars that are attached to the houses, which also just, I never got a pilot's license. I wish I could get a pilot's license. Maybe one day I will. But aviation is always a thing. So that also just, for me, made it a really cool spot because people are flying their little and private planes in probably from like Salt Lake for the long weekends. And it's super cool that like the course itself has its own private airstrip in the residential community that certain homes just, pull right out onto. And jump in the golf court and go hit the first tee, all within a matter of minutes. Not a bad life. So then for a couple that I haven't had the opportunity to play yet, but I am going to just shout them out. Sky Mountain supposedly offers great challenge, amazing views that are just truly breathtaking. So that's the one that a lot of locals have recommended. Again, Sky Mountain. And then the newest, which wasn't even open, I think it actually opened just this past week, or not week, past year. And actually, the Amateur Players Tour, I almost went a couple weeks ago to go play in their event this year because they actually have added the Black Desert Resort course as a new addition to their Copper Rock or their Red Rocks Classic event. It's probably the newest course in St. George and also one of the biggest additions or whatever that's been added just because it's got these epic fairways carved out of fields of black lava rock, and it's like, just something out of golfers' wildest dreams. And it's even hosting the PGA Tour's Black Desert Championship, which I think is the first tournament in almost 60 years for the PGA Tour in Utah. They've had some Corn Ferry Tour events up in the Salt Lake area, but I think when they host this in the next year or so, it'll be the first one in Utah in almost 60 years. I've played it on TrackMan. I just haven't played it in person. So I'm looking forward to that one as well to get back to. So definitely going to have to carve out some time to get down there. And the other thing too is getting there. Like I said, it's, fairly close to Las Vegas and Mesquite. also only about a 4-hour drive to Salt Lake City. It's about, I think, 2-ish hours to Las Vegas. So you can either fly into Vegas, you can fly into Salt Lake. I personally, just because I was kind of doing it on a weekend type of getaway from New York at the time, I flew right into St. George, and it's, right there. It's 20 minutes to Hurricane, which is sort of the other town that you can stay at. St. George itself is a little further from the Copper Rock, as well as the Sand Hollow Resort, but St. George itself has some of the other great golf in the area. There's no shortage of courses, both publics and privates, to play there. But the flights I found to be quite a bit more expensive. I just didn't want to have to fly in from New York after work and then catch a 2-hour drive from Vegas to St. George. So I just spent the extra money and did some cost cutting on the accommodations. But I think my flight was honestly like $700 or $800, which from New York was pretty wild at the time, where most places I could usually fly about $300 or $400. But that being said, the accommodations are, pretty you've got quite a few opportunities for accommodations, because Zion National Park is actually nearby. So while I'm not going to necessarily get into the food, I will say there was a food truck, wood-fired pizza place that was in a parking lot in downtown Hurricane. Not a big town, so it's not hard to find. I think it's the only intersection as you come back from, pretty sure it was Copper Rock. But the pizza was fantastic. You definitely want to put in an order for it, call it in, because the first night that I tried to get it, they were actually sold out because the wait list was so long, and I was there at probably like 6 o'clock. The next day I decided to call it in, and then I showed up at my time, and it was still like a 30-minute wait. So definitely a popular place, the wood-fired pizza. So that's the food recommendation. And then the other thing is, the maybe food non-recommendation, is the airport. At St. George, if you do fly through there, they've got a little table and a couple of vending machines. And the table of snacks is almost like, the school fundraiser style, where I think it might have even been like honesty system. I don't know that there was anybody actually tending it, where they basically had a bunch of candy bars and snacks from like the local Costco, where big box, and just grab a Snickers, drop $1 kind of a thing, or Venmo it. And so the St. George Airport has maybe 2 gates, if that even, and almost no security. I live in Montana, and honestly, I haven't really seen many airports that are quite this small. But yeah, mostly puddle jumpers there too. So I think I went St. George to Salt Lake, Salt Lake to New York. So you're definitely not flying there direct from most places. That being said, last but not least, the accommodations. Sand Hollow Resort, top-notch option. They have both rental homes and villas, but they also have some more hotel-like condo accommodations. Copper Rock also has some homes for rent on platforms like Vrbo and Airbnb, including one that I just recently had friends from here in Bozeman rent on I think it's ninth hole green, from what I could tell from the Airbnb pictures. They rented it for a mountain bike trip over in southern Utah and Zion area, and it looks super awesome. It had a game room it looked like in the garage, and all these great amenities and pool. And anyway, my amateur golfer budget, though, trying to offset the expensive flight that I took, as I mentioned before, it was an interesting one, but I'm going to throw it out there because I honestly, a little quirky, but I ended up loving it. And it was a tiny home that I think these people not only sell, but also rent out on Airbnb, because it did have a price tag. And again, that was one of the weird things when I was staying there, is I did mostly just sleep there at night, like super late. But I think it was one of the days where I had to run back or something. But it's in the back offset from the main highway. Like, so it is definitely kind of tucked back, but it is behind a used car sales lot, and they did have the price tag. If you wanted to buy it, I think it was like $25,000 or something for this furnished tiny home. But it worked very well for me, and I was basically crashing there at night. But I was basically crashing there for the night, and I'm going to show it here, and I'll drop a link to it as well. But yeah, that's that. But anyway, for those of you that have been, I'd love to hear your tips as well, and drop them in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of Chips, Bites, and Flights, and you also enjoyed the technologies that helped me go from a 15 to a 2 handicap. So like, subscribe, and until next time, keep swinging and enjoying a good walk spoiled. This is Scott, signing off. That concludes today's episode of A Good Walk Spoiled, Adventures in Golf, hosted by Scott Ponylaws. That's myself. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, subscribe, rate it high, and follow us on Instagram at pony_golf to stay in the loop. We'll catch you next time.